Back again, guys, and let's look at the ETF, mutual funds, and index funds and the differences between the three. And let's put everything together. Bring up our whiteboard and erase my bad drawings here. And we'll stick with red. All right, so mutual fund, call it MF. And there's no underlying joke there. We just call it a MF, short for mutual fund. But just remember, keep it simple with a mutual fund. It's a fund where everybody puts their money together to supposedly beat the market, to make really good returns. And you're handing over your money to a manager or a group of managers. And so we'll say manager. Writing is terrible here. Okay, so this manager is going to manage your money for you. And there are fees. And generally, these funds actually perform below the market, even though they promise to perform above it. The mutual funds are just not doing well. I'm not sure what the hype. I think one of the hypes with the mutual fund is people just don't have information. They don't have knowledge. So they just, you know, they like they're attracted to the idea of someone, what would you say, someone managing it for them because they're so scared of the market. Ignorance leads to fear. So people's ignorance of the market, maybe you can even say laziness, not to be mean, but ignorance in today's world where information is basically free and there's so much of it that your job isn't like, you're not busy trying to find information, you're busy trying to filter out and do away with too much information. When information is so available and so cheap and so free, how can you be a victim of ignorance in anything that you're interested in? I don't know. So if it was me, I had $200,000 or $300,000, I was going into retirement and I needed to invest money, like I wouldn't just say, oh, I can't figure this out and hand it over to someone else, like not knowing whether it would be good or bad. But, a lot of people, especially in retirement age, give into this scam of the mutual fund. I think it's not a good thing. Ask the mutual fund companies and managers to show you how they make money in their own personal stock portfolio. Okay. Ask them to show you what their trading record is. Not one single one of them will do that. And if you look at the records of the actual mutual fund and what everybody's doing, definitely not performing better than the market in most cases. So mutual fund. All right, then we looked at an index fund, okay? These are a little better. Fees are a little bit cheaper. And these are called passively managed. So we'll write passive, okay? And so, and the difference between passive and actively managed means that these index funds, mutual index funds, are not seeking to add and take away stocks to outperform the market. They're not really bringing a ton of stuff in and a ton of stuff out. They're just really trying to exactly mirror and copy, like we talked about, that index. So that's all they're concerned with doing, is just copying. So there's really no managing involved per se, but they will still charge you fees. And generally speaking, these index funds will perform around what the market's doing. I think it's a little bit less. They try to claim that it's more, but I think it's most, if they get more, it just means they were lucky. I mean, if you're copycatting something, again, how can you do better than something when you copycat? Like you cheat off of your friend's test or a student's test. Like how can you do better, right? If you're cheating exactly like word, like question per question, I don't know. They just have certain times where they've gotten lucky on holding something longer than the actual index was holding it, maybe. So definitely not going to perform too much above the market. Probably not going to perform too much below it. They'll just be right at that level. So right off the bat, you're already doing better than all these mutual funds, and the fees are going to be cheaper. Now let's talk about ETF. All that stands for is exchange traded fund. So the exchange means like the New York Stock Exchange, the place where you buy and sell stocks. Like you are a trader in stocks and you use an exchange like the NYSE. You use that exchange to trade stocks and different kinds of equities. Equities is just a fancy way of saying the products that are available to buy and sell in the market. So an ETF is a fund, just like the mutual fund and the index fund. However, it's exchange traded. So instead of giving your money to the broker and the broker or the company handling it for you, like you give them $2,000 or $3,000 and it all gets pulled together. Instead, these funds, okay, this ETF offers you a product just like a stock, but it's actually like a fund, like an index fund. So for example, you will buy a like a SPY. That's the S&P ETF. When you buy the SPY, what you're actually getting is you're getting the same thing as like an index fund, but you can buy and sell this thing like a stock. And remember, mutual funds and mutual funds and index funds can only be traded at the end of the day. So if you get a big upturn and you want to sell and take profit, or you get a big downturn and you want to get out before you bleed to death, you can't do that with mutual funds and index funds. Okay, you're stuck until the end of the day. So bad days are real bad and good days are not so good because you have to wait and see what happens. ETFs trade just like stocks, so you can buy and sell these things all day long if you want to. You can also trade options and different things on top of these, which makes them really cool. So I'm a big fan of the ETF. I guess there's really no management fees. You just have to pay a fee to buy and sell just like you would with a stock. But most brokers now, you could buy 100 of these. If you had that much money, you could buy 100 for probably $5 and sell them for $5. So $10 to move $40,000 worth of SPY. I mean, I'm not going to complain. So I don't really see any disadvantage of ETFs. If you're into this whole idea of buying into funds instead of individual stocks. If I were going to buy a fund, and I have bought funds before, I would definitely stick with the ETF because it gives you the best of both worlds. It's indexing, it's pointing to and giving you a helicopter view, an overall picture of the market that you can invest in. In other words, you can actually just mirror the market. And on top of that, though, with the ETF, you can do that buying and selling it all day long in the market, just like a stock trader. So offers a lot of good things. And there's tax advantages with ETFs. And I don't know if I'll make a video about that or not. Most people are not super concerned with that aspect. So yeah, there's your mutual fund, index fund, and ETF, exchange traded fund. I think that ETFs are really great. They've come out, I think, in order to solve the problem of the mutual fund, index fund. I don't want to repeat myself, but it's the problem of the problem that these funds have inherent problems, like the fees that they charge, the fact that all they're doing is copycatting the market. And why do you have to go through this big, complicated process to get in and out? And why not just turn these things in and trade them just like stocks? So yeah, and by the way, some ETFs like the spider, like SPY, they have a huge volume, so they're extremely liquid, meaning you can get in and out of these with very little slippage or very little difference in price. Like you don't have to worry about getting screwed on the price when you get in or out. Like there's just millions and millions of these being traded every day. It's a very popular ETF. So I'm definitely gonna give my 5 stars to the ETF. I really like it. I think that it's a really great way to invest in funds, and you basically have complete control over this. You're not subjected to like a company like Fidelity or Vanguard and what their ideas are about what they want to do. Maybe they're not fast enough. Maybe you're faster. Like you see a market happening and you can get in and out of this ETF much faster than the people who have to wait for committee meetings to decide what to do, how to change the stocks, the weights, the percentages, etc. So I think in terms of taking your investment into your own hands, ETFs is the way to go. And again, if somebody tells you these index funds are going to outperform the market, show me, like, show me the money. I don't believe it. Like, how can they do that if they're copycats? And then the mutual funds, I mean, everyone now knows now that they are really bad at trading. So yeah, I'll go with the ETF. That's all I really got to say about that. And let's do our next video on the advantages and disadvantages of trading funds versus individual stocks. Thanks, guys, for coming.